Welcome back. This is Sunday Morning Matters Extra. Congressman Devin Nunes, also the House ranking member for the Republican Party for the House Intel Committee. I'll tell you what, it was been a couple of months now, actually since March when you first came out and launched that lawsuit against Twitter. And then a month after that, you launched the lawsuit against McClatchy, who owns the Fresno Bee. It's close to $500 million at this point in total. Where does it stand right now?
Well, we have probably another 3 to 5 lawsuits that we'll be filing. And it's all about, as you know, I've been maliciously attacked by the media. They've tied me to things that are just simply straight up defamation and slander. And if you go and Google right now, you do a Google search, you'll find virtually every story is either not true or it's based off of a previous story that wasn't true. And so the only way I can clear my name up is through the courts. And so we have our first court date at the end of August on.
Will you show up for it?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
It'll depend on what the lawyers say is the right thing to do.
So you have 3 more lawsuits that you guys are going to file.
3 to 5 more.
Will you do that in the coming weeks here? Or is that something later down the line to see what
they'll be coming up soon.
Do you feel confident that the courts are going to take this seriously?
Well, I mean, I would think that every court should take things seriously, especially defamation and slander. So, every man or woman has a right to his or her name, and just because I am an elected official doesn't mean that any mainstream media outlet can say whatever they want about me. And so we're going to hold them accountable, and hopefully, hopefully it'll change the way, because we're going through a period in time in this country right now where every day political people are being slandered almost by the second, right on if you mention Twitter. And the only way we're going to get that to rein all that in is if public officials are able to sue for slander and defamation. I think it was a mistake that happened 50 years ago, and I think if you want to bring it back into check, you will allow these public officials to be able to sue if they get slandered.
Some people say that what President...
And you can sue. I mean, that's what I'm doing. It's
right. It's
legal as to what I'm doing.
It's an American right. We do a lot of it these days, right? But President Trump, he says a lot of things on Twitter too, and nobody's physically suing him.
But there's a difference. Defamation has a clear difference. The president is not defaming anyone or slandering them on Twitter. They may not like that he's attacking them. But there's a big difference if I don't like your policies and if I say, Alex, your studio here is rat infested and it's terrible and I don't know why anybody would come on the show.
Wait a minute.
Versus if someone was to say, you've been involved in a prostitution ring, right? And if someone says that about you, you're not going to get a job anywhere. And if multiple news outlets pick that up, so, I mean, that's really the difference. And if somebody said that about you and it's not true, you should be able to, as a TV anchor, you should be able to go to court and get your name cleared. And that's what we're working on.
So the president calling Al Sharpton a con man who hates whites and cops, that's not slander?
That's not slander.
That's not slander. That's just attacking somebody.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Slander would be, I mean, there's a clear legal definition of it. Like I could say that, you could say that about me, I can say that about you. It's much different than accusing you of a crime. That's the difference.
When you say you're going to launch 3 to maybe 5 lawsuits, do we know what that number is, and are they media outlets?
Primarily media outlets and dark money groups.
Dark money groups.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, you have to remember that there's groups that come in and you don't know where the money comes from. They don't have the same reporting requirements, and they do things that attack either you or your family, and there's no way to track where that money's coming from. So it's actually breaking campaign finance law. So we're looking at that also.
Okay, when will we know what the next 3 to 5 lawsuits are? I mean, are you kind of waiting to see what the courts say at the end of August here?
No,
to kind of
nothing. They will all, no matter what happens in each individual case, these will all get filed.
These will all get filed.
Yeah.
How confident do you think you're going to win all of them?
You know, look, it's not about, for me, it's not about winning, right? It's about making sure that my name is cleared, that apologies are issued, so that when, you know, in the future, when you go on and, you know, look me up on the internet, people will know all of these crazy things that they said about me over the last 2.5 years were, number one, totally false. Number two, were malicious. They did it on purpose to obstruct a congressional investigation, which we discovered in this whole investigation, despite what is out there in the mainstream media. The Democratic Party colluded with the Russians to dirty up a campaign, and they weaponized the intelligence agencies against a sitting president. And I just happened to be the guy that was in charge of the committee at that time, and you know, they tried to take me out, and they were unsuccessful. And so I have no way to clean my name up other than the way we're doing it.
I got one quick thing, 30 seconds here. The Democratic debate, second round, if you will, or the second portion of it happening in Detroit. Is there a front runner here that you see as a real threat to President Trump?
Well, look, anybody is a threat if they get on the ballot, and they have to be, because the country is so divided. But what you do see is something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, and that is the Democratic Party no longer exists. I mean, it's a socialist, communist party that is based off of one thing and one thing only.
Well,
that is just trying to gain power.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard that. I've heard, you know, some ideas that are out there that we haven't heard before.
Yeah, like
with the Green New Deal.
Well, the Green New Deal would be, there's no definition for that other than their socialist communist policies.
Who do you think wins the nomination?
Medicare for all, and we can't even afford Medicare today for our seniors, much less provide Medicare to everyone.
Who do you think wins the nomination?
I don't know. I think there's, if you look at, there's kind of the top four, and I still think there's probably room for someone else to pop into that top five. I mean, I think when you get down to kind of the top five and you start having debates, they'll probably split themselves off.
Medicare for all, you said, you know, the Democratic Party is not a Democratic Party. You're saying it's a communist socialist party. Medicare for all.
It's a socialist party that's headed, by their own admission,
but how is Medicare
that is a
for all?
slippery slope to communism.
How would Medicare for all, though, be communist?
Well, because it's socialism, okay? So when you look at Medicare for all, trying to have where it's government-run healthcare from top to bottom, all right? We cannot afford, if any politician is telling the truth, we cannot afford the spending that we're spending to ensure that all of our seniors today that are on Medicare stay on Medicare. Okay, the reason Medicare was put into place is because you had people get old, they didn't know, you know, and it was the easiest way for the government to take care of people was through that mechanism. Never was it designed that you'd insure every single person like this with a Washington, D.C. trying to run your health care. And so I think it's pretty clear that socialist systems don't work. I mean, there's no question that Medicare is going broke in the short term just for our seniors today.
Well, always good to see you, and
right.
a lot to talk about as we head to 2020, so can't wait to see you back here.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
All right.